West woke to the dawn of a new day, and despite the glory of the sunshine on his face, he felt lost, as though a part of him was missing. He was a scientist, and he had always looked at life in a scientific way. It made sense to him that way. However, something on that day caused him to contemplate another possibility. He had no idea what that something could be, but as he looked out into the horizon, he had to know what else was out there. As an insatiable curiosity took hold of him, he found himself dusting off his backpack. Heaving the heavy pack onto his back, he opened the door and took the first step of his quest to the unknown. East looked up to the millions of stars overhead as a sense of awe and wonder overtook her. She pondered the vastness of the universe. She was feeling stifled, pressured, and resistant to the notion that her only purpose in life was to get married and have children. As she looked at her sleeping parents nearby, she realized that she had never left her small village. Suddenly, she found herself packing her bags as an insatiable urge to know and understand the world outside the parameters she'd been confined to overtook her. As West plodded along under the weight of his pack, he eventually realized that in order to advance more quickly, he was going to need to get rid of some of the weight he was carrying. As he rummaged through his bag, he began to pull out items he thought he could survive without on his journey, but clutched tightly to his laptop and cell phone, GPS device, and scientific tools. After several days, he was feeling more and more exhausted and confused. He was even angry at himself, wondering why he had given in to the ridiculous notion of leaving everything behind to search for something that he had no proof even existed. Suddenly, a huge rainstorm rolled in, completely soaking him and the precious items he was holding onto so tightly in his backpack. After several hours, the rain finally subsided. As West assessed the damage of his items, he realized that everything had been ruined. He stood on the path alone, hungry, wet, and with nothing but the soggy clothes on his back to call his own. Fighting every urge to turn back and return to the safety and comfort of his life, he curled up under a tree and fell asleep. East, too, began to struggle under the weight of her backpack, though perseverance pushed her on. Although she had no idea where she was going, she felt more and more confident in the decision that she made with every step. Lost in her thoughts, she suddenly found herself surrounded by a gang of robbers who demanded that she give them everything she had. She had been warned many times by her village not to travel too far without the accompaniment of a friend or a family member as a means to remain safe. Here she was facing the exact danger, all alone. She handed the robbers her bag, and they quickly ran off down the road. She sat on the side of the road and began to sob. How could she continue on her journey without anything to help her along the way? She had brought so few possessions to begin with, but now she had nothing. As thoughts of returning home began to creep into her mind, she decided that was not going to be an option. She would not let fear control her life. She sat on the side of the road, alone, tired, confused, and with nothing but the clothes on her back to call her own. "Hello," West heard someone call as he opened his eyes to the shadowy figure standing above him. "Why are you sleeping under this tree?" West was not in the habit of talking to strangers, and he felt almost embarrassed by his response as he uncomfortably retold the story of his journey. At the end, the stranger smiled broadly, put his hand on his shoulder, and said, "I understand." Finding comfort in the man's smile, West began to walk down the road with the stranger. A little while later, they came across a young woman weeping on the side of the road. "Why are you crying?" they asked her. East retold her tale of losing her possessions to the robbers. West and the stranger both extended their hands to help East up from the ground, and they said, "I understand." The trio walked down the road together for some time. The stranger told them about his journey thus far, and reminisced about items he had to part with along the way. They stopped at a clearing in the road. The stranger, who now appeared to West and East as less of a stranger and more of a friend, spoke softly and said, "Here is a space in the middle of the road, where we can see all directions, behind us, ahead of us, to the left and the right. But there's a space beyond those points. Now that we have no bags to carry and no tools to guide us, which way would you like to go?"